Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. Here are two more of my own stories. I'll be doing these on Fridays, usually, and P.G. Wodehouse's Inimitable Jeeves on Tuesdays. I do like writing to a variety of challenges and have done over 100 of these stories so far. You can read them via my website at ravensview.ca. I'm late this week as I spent Friday in the emergency at my hospital. I'd had severe chest pains the night before, that eased and then disappeared, but I went in anyway. Several ECGs, lots of blood work, cause unknown, but I'm glad to have free, good health care. Today's stories are both from 2012. The challenge was for the first one was a character who had 7 days. I put mine in a hospital. Let's make a deal. It's time, said Death. Agnes stared at the dark figure. No, I can't be. The doctors are all saying I just need a few more treatments. You pay them to keep you going, said Death. To spare no expense. To never say die? Well, that's my job. Please, she said, just a few more days. I need to say my goodbyes to everyone and do my paperwork. I'll do anything for it. Let's make a deal. Death paused. Anything? Just a few days. A week, she said. Okay, Agnes, I can give you 7 days, no more. You've always been one for deals, for risks, but I'm not sure you'll like my conditions. Go ahead, said Agnes. You can have a day for every family member that visits you, he said, but it's time that comes from their life. Well, a day for a day? Sure, who's going to miss that at the end of their life? Well, it's not quite an even deal I'm proposing. I'll give you a day for a year from someone else. A year? Oh, how about a month? Nope. Take it or leave it, he said. And extensions go into double time. For them. Day 1. She was surprised to see both Uncle Ray and Aunt Sarah show up that afternoon. Oh, hi, said Sarah. We heard you were pretty bad. We know we were never that close, but we wanted to come and say goodbye. And make sure you were in the will, said Agnes. Ray looked shocked. It's not about money for everyone, Agnes. We've just a small pension, but it's enough to get by. There are lots of people more in need than we are. Too bad for them, whoever they are, thought Agnes. She didn't get to be queen of hostile takeovers by being nice. She was determined that her company carry on the same way after her death, snapping up weaker companies, trimming the inefficient workforce, dumping unprofitable locations. She saw it as natural selection. She half listened to her aunt and uncle talk, then announced she was too tired to visit. Would they just go? As each leaned over to hug her, she saw a faint glow around them. She reached out, touched their hands, and pulled it to her, feeling a rush each time. The disease had drained her already tiny frame, but now she smiled as they walked out, feeling rejuvenated already. That's 2 lives. Who's there? She looked into the shadows. Death? Are you here for me? Not yet, he said. As he stepped into the hall, she heard a moan and then a scream. She strained to look out the door. It looked like Uncle Ray on the floor, surrounded by several nurses. Guess he didn't have a year to spare, she thought. And Aunt Sarah looked pretty pale. Day 2. Agnes spent the day on the phone, talking to the board of directors as well as her lawyers. Under her direction, they would do their best to ensure the company got as much as possible and her family next to nothing. Once she was dead, there was no need to give them anything to ensure she got her way. She'd started with nothing, so she figured they could too. Day 3. Agnes had to make several calls before convincing her family to ignore the doctor's optimism at her improving health and come in as soon as possible. She finally reached her daughter and demanded she visit that evening and bring the kids. Hi, Mom, I'm here, said Red. Finally, said Agnes. It was almost time for evening rounds, and she had suddenly started to feel weaker. Where are the kids? Rome was with them, Mom, helping them with a science project that's due tomorrow. Oh, you'd think Grandma would matter to them more. Well, that's your doing. Mum, whenever they visit you, you never listen to them. Just give them presents and then demand their eternal love and devotion. Oh, don't sass me, said Agnes. Just tell that useless husband of yours to bring them in tomorrow night. Now come give me a hug. As her daughter bent over, Agnes stroked her hand and grabbed another day. Day 4. Hi, Dad, said Agnes. Hi, Agnes, he said. He sat down by the bed and wheezed, hand to his chest. He was a big man, red-faced, and looked to be more out of breath every time she saw him. I really don't like what you're doing to our company, he said. It'll become even more vicious when you're gone. Unfortunately, I'm in a minority, and the rest of the board just see their big bonuses. My company, Dad, she said. Mine to do with as I want, to make a mark in the history books. They argued for a while longer, but she could tell his heart wasn't in it. Don't know where I went wrong, he said. I tried to be a good model for right and wrong. You were always too soft, she said. She touched his hand, pulling out some life, and turned to the wall. Goodbye. Day 5. Agnes smiled at her doctor. So, what do you think? Cured? I'm not sure, he said. It comes and goes. You rally and then fade. I'm canceling visiting hours tonight. Well, they couldn't do that. She needed to grab more strength. Her dad hadn't given her much. The twins were supposed to come. They'd be just the thing she needed. You will not, she said. I'll have visitors if I want. Remember that new clinic I promised? Don't make me change my mind. That threat had been enough. She watched with a smile as Rom led in her daughter's little twins, both so happy and full of life. Come and say hello to Grandma, she said. Rom, bring them over. He led them reluctantly over to the bed. She touched them both, pulled, and smiled at the rush. Thank you, Rom, she said. He looked at her in surprise. Oh, the twins have some drawings with them that they did at school, said Rom. Want to see them? Silly scribbling, she said. No, take them away. I'm tired. Day 6. Thanks, Dad. I owe you. Agnes hung up the phone. She just needed another day so she could sign the papers for the board and do her new will. She wasn't surprised that her daughter had refused to come back. Supposedly her little brats had complained that Grandma wouldn't look at their drawings. By the time they grew up and stopped whining, she thought. Day 7. Her dad was late. The boost from the twins had faded, and she struggled to keep her eyes open, watching the door. Finally, he slowly walked in, breathing heavily. Oh, come here, Dad. She held out her hands, clasped his, and pulled. She barely felt the flow into her. Her father sighed and then fell back into the chair. A tall figure stepped forward from the shadows, cloaked in black, face hidden by a hood. What are you doing here again? She said. It's not my time. Dad's given me one more day. I don't think he had much in him to draw on, said Death. You've pretty well emptied him. That little push likely won't even get you to dawn. Her dad turned. Who are you? Why are you here? Death explained the deal, including the double time after 7 days. I needed the time, said Agnes. Tomorrow I assign all the papers and tidy this up. I heard the cousins are arriving too, so I might even do a few days more. 1 year or 2 from them, no difference to me. Their lives are a waste anyway. Her dad sat forward, glaring at Agnes. Uncle Ray, he said, that was you? And the twins, you stole life from the twins? You truly are heartless. She struggled to sit up and then fell back. Oh, they're young, she said. They have lots to give. That time will make no difference to them right now. Go away, old man. I need to rest. I can't let you do this, he said. He looked at Death. Give me a minute. Death smiled from the shadows of his hood. I'll just be outside. I'll watch the door for you. Her father slowly got up from the chair, picked up a pillow, and walked over to the bed. Agnes glared up at him. I said go away. I will in a minute, he said, but you're coming with me. He placed the pillow over her face and leaned on it. Agnes plucked weakly at his arms, hoping for enough strength to push her dad off, but She pulled only the merest of a wisp from him. She heard a final sigh, then a faint whisper as his weight crushed her beneath the pillow. "It's okay," he said. "Daddy's got you." So, looks like death had meant 7 days. For the second, the prompt was to write a medical thriller. Well done. It was nice for a change to not be the biggest person in the room. This clinic was new, promising amazing weight losses, but they had cautioned that program might take weeks, might take months. They stressed the cutting off of old negative ties and patterns, so they only took clients that could say they were now unencumbered with links to friends and families, looking for those free to take themselves off the grid for however long it took. I'd paid the money, signed the forms, and had shown up as specified at 8 a.m. after 12 hours of fasting. It was now almost noon, and while others had been called in, none had come back. Well, except for one guy. He did look a little overweight, but certainly not as extreme as the rest of us. He'd been given a refund by the nurse and sent on his way, leaving me to sit and wait and wonder at all the moans and groans from behind the clinic door. I was starting to think this was all a mistake when the nurse called my name. She led me into an examination room and explained the program. There would be an extensive massage with a proprietary blend of oils and herbs designed to soften the skin and prepare it for the treatment. To help with that, they would first apply a depilatory cream over my whole body, and before it all, I would be given a high colonic irrigation. Between that and the extensive massage, I would probably find myself adding to all those groans. The next stage will be a series of very hot baths, part of the overall process to basically cook the fat out of me. Sounded a little strange, but I was way past just obese and willing to try anything. They gave me some soothing tea during the initial procedures, a sweet drink that made me feel quite mellow. The massage seemed to go on forever and left me supple, oily, and fragrant. I had almost dozed off when a nurse came to take me to the next stage, the hot baths. And were they ever hot? Not too bad to start, but mine kept going up and up, it seemed. It reminded me of that story of the frog that was put into warm water, then eventually was boiled. The nurse had settled me in with my arms and legs on some supports and left me with another drink, cold this time, to sip on while in the bath. It was a little too spicy for me at first, but eventually I ended up getting so thirsty I tried it again. Unfortunately, the pepper got to me and I sneezed, one of those convulsive sneezes where you sort of curl up in a ball. As I did so, I heard several clunks under the water in the bath. A series of restraints had closed just where my wrists and ankles had been. What was with that? I scrambled out of the tub and was amazed at how cool the room air now felt. I checked the control settings, and it was not only set for 100. I peered closer. Oh, the water was set for 100C, or 212F as in boiling. What were they trying to do, kill me? I grabbed a robe and peered out into the hallway. It was empty, just a series of doors. I slipped along the hall and checked some of the other rooms. They all had tanks like mine, some with slightly bemused patients, happily bobbing in the water, empty drink container by the tub, and in some the victims were unconscious. In a few of the baths they looked very dead and very red, and smelling a lot like my grandmother's soup. I had to get out. The first and second exit doors I checked were locked very firmly. I was about to start yelling for help when I noticed that the door at the end was propped open just a crack, with a piece of cardboard wedged against the frame. I burst through and found myself just a few feet from a busy sidewalk and safety. As I made my escape, robe flapping, I noticed a nurse against the wall, cigarette to her lips and a startled expression on her face. Thank God for smokers, I thought. The end. Rest assured, my own hospital stay was much less exciting than this one. Stay tuned for more podcasts, either my own stories on Fridays or some of the classics on Tuesdays. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get the next installment as soon as it's ready. If you enjoyed this reading or have other stories you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. And do check out my other posts on my Substack at ravensview.substack.com. Ta-ta for now.